Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week, we get to meet Rabbi Jacob and Julie Rupp, the new executive directors of Aish Minnesota. We talk about why the Rupps chose Minnesota, what led Jacob to the rabbinate, and the Jewish journey that brought the two of them to this point on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Rabbi Jacob and Julie Rupp, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
You are the new rabbi and rebbitzin for Aish, Minnesota. So welcome to town.
Thank you.
Yes, we're getting adjusted to the new surroundings.
There's like weather here. It's raining. I don't know what's going on.
So where are you from originally? Or not originally, where was your last stop? Let's go there first.
So we've been in San Diego for the past 4 years, and then before that we were in LA. So we're very much Southern California through and through. So this is a massive change for us, but we're excited to be here.
And today it's like 60 and rainy, which...
That's Arctic weather for us.
You haven't seen that.
I only have shorts.
Yeah, the kids are like, what's happening outside? They don't know what's going on.
So... one of the crucial questions I tend to ask people when they've moved here from out of town, what time of year did you interview here?
Oh, we knew it was going to be...
Okay, so you knew we had 4 seasons here.
We were told that they were going to bring us out in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first time we came was May, and it was... I think they said it was the nicest weekend of the year.
I expected tundra and meth, just nonstop.
But it was so gorgeous. We just couldn't get over it. And then we walked around the lake, so they knew all the right places to show us that weekend.
Chamber of Commerce weekend.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
As they say. What was it about coming to Minnesota? Obviously, Southern California, weather is nice and predictable most of the time. What was it about the Twin Cities that really appealed to you, and where you were hoping to, whether either career or personal or family, that you were hoping to advance?
Well, the truth is that we really were not looking to leave California. It was never on our radar. We didn't want to leave the West Coast. But then Jacob was in touch with someone, and somehow this job opportunity came up. And we kind of just looked at each other, and we knew we were ready for a change on a lot of different levels. And so we said, sure, why not? Let's just go check it out for the weekend. And we really, when we came to interview the first time, it was just a very far out thought. We never really thought we'd consider it seriously. But when we came out here, we both kind of looked at each other on the airplane ride home, and we said, whoa, this is kind of problematic, because we actually really loved it. We love the people so much
that as we were hugging them goodbye at the airport, we're like, wow, this is going to be super awkward if we never see them again.
It was such a good weekend, and the people were so nice. You felt obligated?
We felt like it would be sad that we would really not see them again.
And then the weather. I mean, the weather was beautiful. The land itself was very beautiful.
Lush green.
Yeah.
We were having a drought in California for the past year. So
I think we always have a drought in California.
It's perpetual.
Yeah, that's true.
We were basically we're looking here at Arizona, Scottsdale. Okay. So
2 polar opposites.
Yeah, that's good. I like that kind of stuff.
So if only you could have both. You could summer with Aish, Minnesota, and then winter with Aish, Scottsdale.
Something like that.
That's the ideal.
Yeah.
If not for the 4 kids, you'd have to schlep back
honestly,
and forth.
Honestly, I think we had I always had a mental block, and I think my wife did as well, to cold. My first job interview was for University of Pennsylvania, and it was going pretty well, I think. And at the end, the interviewer was like, "Do you have any questions for me?" And I said, "Does it snow there?" And he was like, "Are you serious?" And that was it for us. So what was that? Probably 16 plus years ago, and I think we're going to overcome that, or die trying.
Well, I think you're going to have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Year.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you a little perspective, our kids have never seen snow falling.
Never seen it.
I mean, they've seen snow on the ground, but it was a couple of snowflakes. That's it.
This is
when we were away for a weekend in the mountains. So this is going to be a massive, massive situation for us.
I'm excited to hear how that goes, because that's going to be just the culture shock for them. I mean, at least you know what you're getting.
No.
I mean, you know what you're getting.
We don't know what we're getting
You know, the funny thing is that literally from the second we announced to people publicly at home and here anywhere that we were moving here, they're like, you do know about the weather. And, you know, conceptually, theoretically, we know the number, you know, negative.
Can I give a practical thing, though? If someone takes a job already, don't try to, like, convince them not afterwards. That was a very practical piece that I never really understood until we had said it. We're like, we're moving. And they're like, I had some woman actually come, she's like, oh, my friend did that and it was so cold. You'll be back in a year. And I'm like, thanks for nothing. How about good luck on that?
Yeah, it seems a little weird that people would, like, in the nicest way possible, but like openly wish you ill or wish it goes badly for you.
You know what I think it is that people like to convince themselves that they're in the best place possible at all times. So when someone opts out of that community, you know, then everyone tries to make themselves feel better by the fact that you're not stuck in it. Yeah, you're not bound. Ultimately, that's where I want to be. Like, I don't want to be bound. Don't tell my employers this or anyone else that you're listening to, but like, I don't want to be bound anywhere. You know, I always want to be choosing where I am and being there, not because I've been in situations in my past where I've had to have been in that situation. And, you know, everyone kind of knows like the dead end job that they don't want to be in, but they have to be. And I actively don't want that. And so I want this to be such a paradigm breaker for me and for our family that it's just, you know, the world is open.
I think that's what you said too, that you said, you know, if we can survive here, we can survive anywhere.
So true.
You know, I mean, just, I guess physically in terms of the weather, it's definitely a transition and it is a culture shock. But the truth is that, you know, the kids came home from school and they just said, I mean, overwhelmingly, and the experience that we've had is just everyone is so nice, so friendly, so welcoming. And so I think all those factors and the exciting job opportunity that we have here and the really warm, welcoming community, I mean, we just decided like, okay, this is going to be worth it. So that's kind of where we're at. We haven't experienced the snow yet, though, so we have to come back for a second episode.
No, it'll be fine. You guys will be fine. So, Jacob, when did you know that you wanted to be a rabbi? And
that's a great question. Should I get on my therapist's couch now or later?
You could do it now. That's fine.
Okay.
I'd have gotten a comfy. I'd have set us up in comfier
I'm going to lay on the
surroundings.
table. I'm going to start crying. For the listeners, I'm in a fetal position right now. So I remember I was driving in my 1990 Volkswagen van. On a place called Ignacio Valley Road in Walnut Creek, California. It was raining, and my mother had put on my grandmother had sent my mother tapes from their rabbi, which was his name was Howard Schul. No, his name was Ed Feinstein in Valley Beth Shalom in Los Angeles, and I heard him, and for the first time, I felt like he moved me. He moved me, and I was like, it was like either I want to be the president. I had a big ego from an early age, and that developed healthy, and so I knew I wanted to do impactful work, but I never realized like that Judaism and being a rabbi was part of it. So I remember hearing that. I didn't know much about Judaism, frankly, but I knew there was such a thing as a rabbi, and I knew that rabbis talked to people and helped them out, and then I heard this rabbi, and you know, it's funny, you never realize how certain influences in your early life shape you. And so it's like I've been pursuing that dream of impacting people now for 2 decades, if that I don't know if the numbers work out like that, but I'm pretty old, so I think that works. And then it was that I knew I wanted to be a rabbi, and that was long before I knew if I was going to be a reform or conservative or Orthodox rabbi or any kind of a rabbi or Reconstructionist or you name it. So that was my early influence, and I've been sort of piecing it together ever since what that means.
So what kind of Judaism did you grow up with in your house then? That you sort of, you knew you wanted to be a rabbi, but it was sort of this, I don't know what or how I want to be a rabbi, but I just know I want to be a rabbi. So
it's fun. I had my parental units. My mom I was raised by Bay Area feminists, and I grew up in a Reform synagogue. My father was like a Rush Limbaugh 80s conservative white man, you know, and so I did have the wide gamut of of interactions. He converted when he was marrying my mother. So we were raised in a Reform synagogue. My grandparents were part of a conservative synagogue in Los Angeles, and I sort of knew there was these things called Orthodox Jews that we descended from at some point based on the black and white pictures on our walls. But grew up, eating bacon and ham. I hate it. Like it's funny because Julie has a similar story to this in a lot of ways, but like my mom had to bribe me to go to post Hebrew school education in our middle school program. So I was definitely not into Judaism.
Okay.
But I was proud of being Jewish and knew that it was something that made me unique.
Okay. So Julie, what was your path? Jacob sort of teased it a bit there. What was your path to here?
Very, very different. I am originally Hungarian, so I was born in Hungary. My family moved when I was 7, and so we grew up in a completely secular household. We had nothing. I mean, no Rosh Hashanah, no Yom Kippur, nothing. And I knew I was Jewish, and I was very into it. I guess my soul was always calling to me Jewishly, but I never had a way to practice. So when I went to college, I got involved in Hillel, and then it
was actually a play on my part because I was 100 pounds bigger. Well, now I'm probably not 100 pounds less, but I was significantly larger, and all of the attractive girls had been swooped up in that first week, as if you'll remember from your college days. And somehow my wife was a late bloomer. Not a late bloomer, but I'm saying late bloomer to the Jewish scene. So like 6 or 7, it was weeks into school, she showed up at this Hillel event, and I was like, oh my God, who's this lady? And so I made it my duty to involve her in the Jewish thing. At which point she thought I worked for Hillel instead of was just someone trying to take advantage of my Jewish roots.
Your Jewish knowledge and experience.
Which was very limited.
But yeah, I mean, I really loved going to Hillel. I loved being involved Jewishly, being around other Jewish people. I joined a Jewish sorority. But then, it was great. And then I got the opportunity to go on a Jewish learning experience, and that was run by observant Jews. And so that kind of started my journey, and I was became familiar with, Orthodox Jews, and I just found it very authentic. I really found it a warm, welcoming place. Intellectually, it made sense to me.
I was pretty freaked out by this, by the way.
At this point, we had already started dating, and so we, it was kind of a problem. He's like, "What are you talking about? I'm very reformed. This is like great."
These people are crazy.
And so it was a little bit of a back and forth. But throughout college, we really kind of transformed and grew together. And so that was kind of how our journey began. And I became more, observant, more religious. I started learning and taking on different mitzvos. And so after college, when we graduated, we both decided that we wanted to go to Israel to learn for a year. And we did that separately at separate like men's and women's programs. And then after college, we got married and we kind of, we started our family and we got involved in Jewish outreach. And so we really always just kind of wanted to give back to, the people who gave to us, and we wanted to, pass it on.
Is that sort of why Aish works for you and for both of you and your family? It sort of, Julie, that explanation you gave sort of feels like it really fits right into the ethos of at least what I understand Aish to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were never really that involved in Aish. I think a lot of people become religious through Aish or get involved just on a
What's the nice way to say that? Become religious? Like, what does that mean? As the reform
I guess
Jew
it has a bad connotation
because
some
I
people
felt like I was religious before I was identifying as, I don't know what I identify. Like, identity is a big problem. I'm just going to put that out. Whatever. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Can you just re-ask her that question, because that can go down a hole.
No, I want to go down that rabbit hole because I think that's really interesting.
Stay on her rabbit hole, then we'll go down the next one.
Right. So about Aish and sort of the ethos of Aish.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the whole, the ideology behind Aish is to really provide a space for people who want that relationship interaction. So a lot of times we will go to synagogue because, on high holidays, you have to go to synagogue, and, bar mitzvah, you have to get the bar mitzvah, and you have to get the bar mitzvah lessons. But I think that what Aish provides, and at least what we hope to provide for people who are interested, is just in between those spaces to have real connections and a real, authentic kind of experience that they're looking to have that may not be filled in another space. And so it's really driven by by giving over knowledge or like a relationship experience that people might be missing in other places. But maybe you could fill in a little bit more.
That was great. I think that there is a concept that it's actually a Jewish concept, so I could say something rabbinic if that's okay. That the world that we live in is characterized by a great deal of physical material wealth and in a lot of ways spiritual poverty. Mm-hmm. So people around the world, and you see just a tremendous proliferation of self-help and religious revivalism on all fronts. And, it's not a surprise that you'll have these mega churches and just a massive return to faith, a massive rediscovering of faith, the whole concept of, faith in politics and the role that plays, is amazing. I was at an Minnesota APAC event, and it was like two Christians on the opposite sides of the political aisle talking about why they should support the Jewish state and how to do it. And it's like such a fascinating thing that faith has come to play such a predominant role in lifestyle. And even the idea of businesses, you see, whatever a person's, Chick-fil-A or whatever you want to name these different companies, of how faith comes into the in the business world, or on the flip side, how mindfulness and meditation and all of these other kind of this ethos has to pervade. At least maybe I'm talking from California, but is into business. So the idea that we have become materially very successful, but spiritually people are very hungry for that, I think is sort of where I would love to try to offer my very limited. It's cool. I have limited knowledge, but I'm plugged into a pretty good system called Judaism, and how we can enter that conversation, I think, is a compelling thing for me.
So let's go back down the rabbit hole that you almost took us down. Was the question somehow? Like, did I offend with the question?
No, you didn't offend anything.
Okay.
I always have multiple ears. I live in a chess game in the sense that I'm trying to hear what's being said, or how people are hearing what I'm saying, or what other people are hearing. And one of the things that was always terribly offensive to me was the idea that you could become religious or become observant as if I wasn't already. And I think that there is the divisive, again, I don't want to sound trite by saying this, but the divisiveness that is so afflicting everybody from on the political landscape and the religious landscape. I felt like, growing up, I felt like Orthodox Jews didn't think I was Jewish enough, which is, again, I never met an Orthodox Jew to ask them, is that my opinion? But I was always feeling like there was a sense that I was the other. And in the same regard, that when I educate or I make connections with people, I'm not trying to have them buy into my system. From my perspective, this is our system to which we all have an obligation to make this as meaningful as we can for us. My wife came up with the name for my podcast, Lift Your Legacy, which essentially means that we're obligated to try to build a better tomorrow for whoever is going to follow us, be it our own biological children or the people that we're interacting with. And it's not like my job to be the best person for your kids. Like those are your kids. You have to do that. And to the extent to which I could help with that, that's great. But this idea that, again, I heard this when I was younger, but I really mean it. People say, like, well, when did you become, quote, observant, or when did you become Orthodox, or, when was that time for you? And I very actively see it as an ongoing process that I'm not going to say, oh, I became this at that point. Like, we're all evolving, and we're all trying to figure out, at least I think we should all aspire to continually evolve. And it doesn't matter. For me, the labels were so offensive, especially in college. Like, I took over Hillel, and I was trying to figure out, okay, I have to get an Orthodox rabbi and a Reform rabbi, conservative rabbi, and I'm like, I don't even know what the difference is, and nobody knows really what the difference is. And you think conservative keeps kosher in some sense, and Reform like doesn't. And someone will say like, well, I'm a Reform or I'm cultural. I'm like, well, what do you do that like Reform has an ideology? I'm like, do you have any idea what the ideology is? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, it's not fair to just claim that you're something because you think that's what you are.
Right. So which college were you at? What did you guys meet at?
We went to UC San Diego.
University of California, San Diego.
Yes. So we kind of we met there, and then we ended up going back there to San Diego. And I think that for us, it's the timing of us coming here is just really perfect. And in terms of what the organization, I think, is looking for, because what we found is that, the 21, 22, 23-year-olds version of ourselves, we're very starry-eyed, and we were very excited and enthusiastic, and we were able to take on a lot of, newness and different levels of observance. But that was, it was a very idealistic time in our life, and we were very, very much, I don't know what the word is. Help me. We were completely enthusiastic and authentic about what we were doing, but our stage today is very different. And I think it's a matter of taking, and I've always said this about my observance and my growth, is that it's about taking who you are and not saying that was wrong and, why was I like that? I don't want to be like that. I want to be a completely different person. But it's taking who you are as a whole person and bringing it into a new and higher level. And so I think it's just a continuous, what Jacob was saying, it's like a continuous growth phase. And so we're continually growing. People say, are you Orthodox? Because we might not look like your traditional regular Orthodox couple, with our, I don't know, just our appearance and our personalities.
I was told yesterday, they were like, you don't look like a rabbi. And I was like, okay, well, I hear that all the time. That was my first Minnesota person telling me that. That was exciting.
So I just think it's taking who you are, taking your strengths, taking your background and your history and your family history, and just being able to say, okay, like I'm gonna keep the good, and I'm going to improve on the things that I want to improve on, and hopefully pass on to my children. It's like when you think about it, you always want to give your kids more. So whatever educational level you have, you want your kids to exceed that, and if even financial or whatever status that you have, you always want your children to exceed you. And so I think for us, at least for me, I feel like I grew up with pretty much no Judaism. So I think anything that I pass on to them is already going to be a step up or a step forward. That's not saying anything about my parents, because that's just the communist country that they grew up in. But I think that that's what we're really looking for, is just to give them a step up of their Jewish identity and have that continuity and hopefully be able to impact others in that positive way.
All right, I was going to end on that, but I realized, Jacob, you mentioned your podcast. I'll let you plug that real quick, and then we'll get to the last couple questions.
Thank you. This is such a pleasure, Lonnie. You're great. You're a great interviewer.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
May you do many more of these for many years. And good luck with your foodie podcast. I'm excited to listen to that.
Thank you.
My podcast is called Lift, L-I-F-T, Your Legacy. The name came from my wife, and I have the opportunity to interview. It's really been expanding, but I feel like people that offer value to either through the Jewish lens or to the Jewish market in a variety of areas, which frankly I find most interesting, which would be in mental health and personal development, physical health and physical development, business, and the contribution you make to the world, or the family in your personal life. So check it out on iTunes, Spotify, any place right now it's at Rabbi Jacob Rupp, and I do a lot of plugging on Instagram, Facebook, you name it.
Well, excellent. Well, now I get to the last two questions that we always ask.
What's my favorite food?
Jewish food.
Okay. Are you serious?
Your favorite Jewish food?
Oh, my God. That's such a great question. You want to go first?
No, you can go first. I need some time to think.
It's like when you ask someone that loves music, like, what's your favorite band? You have to really narrow that down. Could you narrow it down? Like, it's such a broad spectrum for me.
No.
I
won't narrow it down.
You can't do it?
The answers we get, I will tell you this, what you guys think. we get a little bit of everything. It has been, and for the last question too, we get everything for different reasons.
Okay, that was super broad. I don't know what you're saying, but thank you. I'm going to go with my favorite Jewish food is going to be wine. My favorite Jewish food is wine.
Okay, we've never got that one before. That's amazing.
That's what I'm here for, because ultimately, again, now I would go a little bit on a soapbox. My dear friend, you can check out his podcast, is Kosher Sommelier. His name's Andrew Breskin. We grew up together. Wine, besides being fundamentally Jewish, and all of our sages talk about how Jewish it is, there's a million things, not for now, that's a whole other conversation, but wine is deeply reflective of the different characters from where it comes. It's telling a story. You can literally go through a history of the world and a history through all the different kinds of flavors of the world. The fact that it's kosher, what makes, again, I'm not talking about like the religious, like how it makes it kosher, but you could have just such a tremendous variety of wines, and why Jews drink wine, and what and how it connects into our life, that I find it to be. And I also I heard out that something like 95% of spirits are also running through are involved with like Jewish people, like the import and do spirits. So I would say wine and liquor are my favorite Jewish foods, and that's because also beverages, but it's really like
I never specified, so that's okay. That's okay.
That's my Jewish food. Although the other, I'm a tremendous. I love food, and so if we're talking barbecue, if we're talking traditional Shabbos food, my wife's a great cook. We love Persian. I love Persian food. I love eating. Go ahead.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with. This is so trite, but the bagels and lox.
Oh,
but
God,
really,
so good.
I think that what makes it special for me is just. When we kind of loaded up with the tomatoes and the red onion
back in
and
the good old days, my wife and I could put down 5 bagels.
The
each.
capers.
Oh God, so good.
The capers are cute.
The red onions.
I said that.
You said red onions, capers.
Tomato, cucumber.
Tomato, cucumber, avocado. I mean, we're from California.
It's very California.
Put a little bit of salt on that avocado. Goes
salt
along
and
with
pepper,
and
the everything bagel seasoning from Trader Joe's.
That's also good. Or you just get the everything bagel. Yeah, that's also good. That's very good.
I'm gonna have to go with that.
Love the whitefish. You don't like whitefish. That's too Ashkenazi for you. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's all right. So the last one, favorite Jewish holiday.
No, go first.
Again, it's a very broad question.
It is.
I think that Shabbos is my most favorite Jewish holiday.
Okay.
Because it is, I think more than anything, it profoundly help it because it's other holidays, they can pass you by, and you are a lot of times distracted by whatever it might be, the family, which is not a distraction, it's a beautiful thing. But I think Shabbos, the experience of having it every 7 days and what it offers, and how you can really grow in your observance of the Sabbath. Mm-hmm. And so that greatly appeals to me. And it's just before I was, quote, Sabbath observant, my life did not revolve around Shabbos, but now it does. And I can 1,000% testify that my life is better as a result.
All right. Julie?
So this one is actually surprising that I even am picking this, but I think it's been like the most obscure Jewish holiday. Yes. No, I'm gonna have to go with Pesach, Passover, because
you don't understand. My wife usually has PTSD,
and the fact that I'm saying this is really impressive, even to myself.
Through. Yes,
because for me, I mean, Passover, as an observant Jew, it takes a tremendous amount of preparation, and it's just I'm a very last minute person, and this is just one of those holidays you can't do it like that. And so I think it's taken a lot of development, and so I think I'm pretty proud of myself that I'm able to say that it's. But I think that even though it's difficult, we have family. Jacob's sister and her family come every year to us for Pesach, and just having that time to spend together, it's kind of our designated time to be together as a family, and it's just crazy and chaotic, but it's also just it's also just a lot of fun, especially now that we both have kids, and then they can see each other and spend time together. And and also it's kind of amazing how much you can cook without using the flour and your normal ingredients, and that it's still delicious, and it's just a way to be creative, I think.
My wife's a super good cook, so that's just a nice plug for coming to our stuff ever.
Yeah, so we definitely are excited to be up and running in our household.
Chauvinist though, like I also cook a fair amount, so that'll be part of it. But she is a better cook than I am.
Eggs Benedict.
Oh,
that's
don't forget
specialty.
about it. I can rock that like you can't even imagine.
Sorry. Well, we're going to end on that. Jacob and Julie Rupp, thank you for joining us this week, and welcome to Minnesota. We are thrilled to have you both.
God bless you.
Amazing.
Thank you
so much, Lonnie.
Thanks so much to Jacob and Julie Rupp for joining us on this week's show. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. You can find it on all the places where you get podcasts these days. If you have a suggestion for somebody who would be a great interview, please email me. You can get me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week.